Hey guys, how's it hanging everybody? This is StormPow and welcome to another episode of StormPod. Today we're going to be talking with Matthew James. He is one of the hosts of The Secret Podcast and he's also an aspiring filmmaker, and he's a great friend of mine that I've known for quite some time, so I hope that you guys enjoy this episode of StormPod as much as I had fun recording it. But as always, if you want to get an even better podcast experience, be sure to check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/thestormpow. We live stream these episodes every week, so not only do you get access to the episode a little bit sooner, but you also get to enjoy the pre and the post show where myself and the guest interact with the audience live. So it's a lot of fun. Be sure to check that out. And without further ado, here is Matt from The Secret Podcast.
I don't know what happened, but I literally was going to vote for Trump in 2016. You can even go back and watch the podcast around then, because the podcast started a couple months before the election. Mm-hmm. And you can see me vehemently defend Trump. And for a few years after that, I'd still be mad kids would get shot in a school shooting. I'd be like, it sucks to suck. And I don't know what I don't remember what shooting it was, but it was one this year, I think, that I was just like, dude, what the fuck? And then after that, at some point, I've always obviously believed in fucking climate change, but it was, I think my friend Madeline, she went to school for fashion here at VCU, and, with a major in sustainability or something like that, or maybe mine, I don't know, something like that. Sustainability in fashion was her thing. She even wrote a class about it for VCU, which was really cool.
Oh, that is cool.
And at some point I just became woke, and then I just was my third eye opened, and I started, meditating and talking to Buddha, and I was like, yo, this shit's not cool. And so now I go completely all the way to the left. And it's funny because it's just funny seeing the transformation. If I go back and watch some episode of the podcast from 2 years ago, I can see me defending gun control or not, rather defending guns. Mm-hmm. And then now me being no, we should probably just ban guns. It is what it is. Or I can say something about women's rights or something like that. That's off the wall. Mm-hmm. And have everyone on the podcast be dude, what the fuck are you even saying? And even though I know it's kind of a joke, I also kind of believe it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's good though to have growth one way or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not even saying that the side you're on now is right and the side you were on before is wrong, but sometimes people like to look at stuff like that and be like, oh, well, you say this now. Well, you used to say this. And I'm like, well, yeah, I used to say a lot of stupid shit when I was, younger. It's now have you legitimately, you said you've been talking to Buddha. Is that one of your things, or are you actually?
No, that was just a joke right now.
Okay. Cause see, this is why I'm the fucking worst, because I was literally about to ask you about Buddhism and stuff like that. I was about to be like, hey man, let's talk about Buddhism over here. But I see you fucking deadpan stuff. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But no, I remember, yeah, there have been some times. That's why, I said, you remind me of Stephen Colbert, because for the longest time, I mean, granted, I was pretty young when Stephen Colbert was in his prime, and I didn't really understand politics that much anyway. And I genuinely I didn't even realize it was a character, which granted, I'm gullible, I tend to look at things very literally. But then there's, people like you, and I'm like, what the hell does he believe?
Yeah.
So kind of going back, you started the podcast in 2016, you were saying, around the time of the election, but I was looking back on some of your stuff, kind of trying to jog my memory of old Matt, back from when I had first met you, and
right.
You really didn't have a big cringy phase, I feel on some of your old videos. You early on in your videos on your old solo YouTube channel. I mean, so one thing that legit, I watched it, and the oldest video on your old solo channel that you had,
oldest video that's public.
I thought about that because like it was almost acting like there were certain content before it. But what did you have on there before?
Mad, like Call of Duty, Battlefield commentaries and shit like that. Like the, it's funny you say it, like the cringy thing, because one of the videos I love going back and watching, and I'm so glad I didn't delete any of the videos on my channel, and I only ever privated them or unlisted them, was this video where I talked about religion when I was in like the 8th grade or something. Cause
what a good authority you had on that,
dude. No, it's honestly the funniest thing in the world, because I don't know why I felt the need to talk about religion, but I did, and it's a time capsule of ignorance. Like that's the best part about it, is like I didn't even realize as I was recording it and editing it and uploading it how ignorant I sounded. So like I'm sitting here, I was like, oh, like I believe in God because well, just because he exists. And like it was like, in going back on it, I'm like, what the fuck? That's crazy. It's funny.
Yeah.
Because it exposes how much I just believed what I was told. That's what's so funny about that video in particular to me. And then there's videos where like I'm doing dual comms with like just my friends in real life, or like me. Oh, one of my favorite videos we made was a Fear Let's Play. We did like 2 parts, like the original Fear game on Xbox 360. I think that game's really good, but like it was me and 5 of my friends or something sitting in my little room, passing around a Rock Band mic, talking while I'm playing Fear. And that video, like, there's a lot of stuff that like I'm glad I still have access to, but I don't think needed to be public. But
well, stuff like that is really fun. Like you said, like passing a Rock Band mic around, like, you know, content creation is not as ghetto as it used to be. Like, I mean, obviously, like there's always been people who had like good production value, but nowadays, like if you imagine the massacre that would happen if somebody uploaded a video like that nowadays, like.
The thing is, dude, the Rock Band mic didn't sound that bad. Like the problem I had with my Rock Band mic is maybe it was too old and I'd played with it too much. But like if I moved slightly, you could hear something internally like moving. You know what I mean? So eventually, I taped it to like one of those desk lamps, and like literally like duct taped it to a desk lamp, and that was my mic for years until I could afford one. Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie.
Shit was definitely more ghetto.
My little red light that I've got pointed at me is zip tied to like a lamp that's got an actual like arm on it and shit like that. So I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do. Like I think people were crafty back then, but
definitely.
But I remember, like the Rock Band mic, like it sounds really bad, but that is right. I think I remember a lot of people saying that it sounded a lot better than you would think. Like I remember a lot of people saying that they used that, but.
Yeah, when I put a pop filter over, I think I put a sock over it or something like that, like, or maybe 2 socks, and just put it up to my mouth. It didn't sound bad.
No. I
mean, for what it was, you know, I really couldn't, like, especially back then, like, me and my mom were broke, like very, very, very broke.
That's, and I remember, I really like wording it as like a time capsule for ignorance, because like, I had this thing on my old YouTube channel, and this is shit that at the time I thought was so fucking clever, and like I was such a like genius, and I was like so ahead of like people my age as far as like, but now I look back on it and I'm like, you fucking idiot. But I had this thing called the IMO Show, for like, in my opinion.
I feel like I remember the name.
Yeah, and like I would make these like rant videos, and there's one in particular that I remember. Okay, so there's 2. There's a couple. Yeah. So the first one, I think it might have been the first one that I ever made, but I remember I was talking about like swearing in videos, because at the time I was getting a lot of like criticism on my videos that I was making because I like swore a lot, and people were basically like, hey man, can you like make these videos but like, you know, X-nay on the swearing and stuff. And I made like this kind of rant video of me basically being like, no, I'm going to say whatever I want and blah, blah, blah. And like, I still agree, you know, with all that stuff. But like, I remember like the way that I went about it was very like dumb. And then there was another video and my fiance's pointed out this to me a couple times where like sometimes I do like get this fixation on something where I'm like, you know what? This is stupid. And like I have like almost an irrational like this is stupid, but like I get very passionate about it. And one of the dumbest ones, I think I made an IMO Show video about it because I watched this documentary. It was playing before a movie or something like that, and they were talking about like polar bears and like saving the polar bears and all this stuff. And
Right.
like now the documentary that they played was really bad. I remember thinking like this is dumb. This did not make me want to save the polar bears. But like so me, you know, at probably like 8th grade or something like that, I make this video and I'm just basically like, you know what? Fuck the polar bears. Like I was like, I was like,
I think I remember that.
and now I look back on that and I'm like, that was so fucking unnecessary. Like, like what? Like, because basically, like the point I was trying to articulate in the video was like, we have bigger problems than the polar bears. Polar bears just want to like shit and kill each other. Why are we saving? Like, why are we putting all these resources into saving polar bears when they're just going to fucking kill each other anyway, you know, when we should be doing this and this. But like, of course, 8th grade me was basically just like, you know what? Fuck the polar bears. And like, yeah, I'm just like, you know, that was, you got to pick your battles. And that was not a good one.
Yeah. Very salient point, you know?
And then of course when I went through my my religious phase, I don't think I was doing like IMO Show videos, but I know that I had some takes that were a little hot.
That was a good time.
That was, I think back to that time. And
Is that like the time where you feel like, I feel like I'm going to look back at where I am at right now and I'm going to be like, what a douchebag. Like, I've never really looked back on myself and never thought like, oh, like, I don't like that guy. But I feel like I'm going to look back on where I'm at right now, like within like the last like 6 months or something, and feel like, fuck you. I don't like you. Like when, I don't know, probably like when I'm 25 or 26 or something, I'm gonna be like,
I feel like I may look back at like present me when I'm like 25 and I may be like, you know what, you were kind of dumb. But hey, you were 23. You know what I mean? As
I've definitely looked back and thought of myself as dumb.
Yeah.
But I literally do think that I'm going to like look back on myself right now, especially because like I'm so open on the podcast and shit that like I talk about everything, and so like I don't really leave shit out. So like I feel like I'm going to end up going back and feeling like, oh, you really were like a douche.
I feel like definitely without a doubt that like religious period, so that'd be like 2013 through like 2016, that I already presently and for the rest of my life will look back on that as like, you were a douche. And and so it's not because I was religious, it is right. Because I was a douche, because now granted I don't believe at all, you know, what I believed during that period of time.
Does your partner?
Was that
your partner? Does she?
No, we are very much on the same page and all that. Like,
I feel like it'd be hard to like actually have, like, especially with where you guys are at, like getting married soon, like, you know, I've always felt like religion, like you should agree with like each other on like certain things. Like if you guys have completely different religious values and shit, I feel like that's not gonna.
It absolutely is. And her, she had a long-term boyfriend before dating me, and he was like religious. He wasn't like stupid devout and all that stuff. Like, I mean, like he would still like drink, and he was kind of one of those, like he'd drink and then he'd be on church like the next day and all that stuff, which, you know, hey, whatever. Like, but like he wasn't like super, you know, pastoral or whatever the fuck. But anyway, like it definitely, she said that like fundamentally that was wrong in their relationship like the entire time, and it didn't like immediate, because they dated for like a year and a half or some shit. But so like they lasted a while, but like ultimately that's like kind of what ended up, because like there were so many things that they disagreed on. Like, you know, she was pretty like chill with him being religious. She was like, hey, that's cool, you can go to church, you can believe whatever you want, but like I ain't about it. But whereas he was like, you know, hey, I don't want you to go to hell. You need to come to church with me. And she's like, no, like, I don't want to, you know, and like, obviously somehow they survived that. But then there were just all the other small decisions that come with that. You know, they were talking about like potentially in their future, how they'd raise kids. And then, yeah, it creates so many, a ton of like problems. But definitely. No, like during that period of my time, I was genuinely a douche. Because again, I was like 16 and thought that my, like what I believed was the end all be all, and like nobody could convince me otherwise. I was a genius. And I lost, I can think of two friends, at least two very, very close friends. I lost them due to me being the way that I was at that time. Right. And I've sort of made amends with it to the point, like we've talked since then, and like we even joked since then, like which both of them moved far away, so like it, you know, like I wasn't really going to be able to stay very close with them anyway. And then like they came to town one time. It was New Year's of 2016, and I remember they went to the house that I was living at for this New Year's party we had, and I was sitting there like on the floor with like a bottle of champagne, and they were just basically like, so this is the guy that led prayer at our graduation? And I was like,
y'all had prayer at graduation?
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, and sometimes I'll see people. It's honestly one of my favorite things. Like people that I know from high school, I'll see them at these parties or whatever, because I still live generally close to where I grew up and all that. So, right. And like, did you guys, surely in Virginia, you guys had FCA, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, so we had this thing. It was Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and
maybe we did. I don't know.
I guess it wasn't really your thing or whatever, but
in either way, yeah.
So I was able to be in it because of a loophole. I was on the bowling team, you know. So. Oh. So, I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't have to tell you, but I was pretty popular with the ladies, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like every time that I say that sentence, I'm like, I was on the bowling team. I think that speaking of, you know, Christianity and religiousness, I think I become a virgin again. Like all my, every time that I say that I was on the bowling team, but no, I was our senior like class representative, so I got to like lead prayer, and now people will see me like at parties and stuff, and they're just like, "So how's that going for you, Darren?" But you know, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, no, that's definitely my period of time where I'll look back at being a douchebag, because like one of my friends, she was one of the friends that I lost. She's like pansexual, and
nice,
and so I. You know, she was very vocal about all that stuff, but I went from being like one of her best friends to basically I was like, you know what you're doing is wrong and all that shit. Like totally out of line. Totally out of line. You know, and
yeah, you might say that.
Yeah, totally out of line. Like, which I think like, I mean, I didn't just like walk up to her in the hallway and was like, hey, you know, but like we were like talking about it, and I was just basically like, no, I don't agree with that, and blah blah blah. And of course, you know, that this led to that. But like I said, we're cool now. But definitely, I do think about that sometimes. I'm like, God, I completely fucked up like really good friendships, you know?
Yeah.
But oh well, it is what it is.
It do be like that.
It do be like that sometimes. But going back to your old YouTube stuff, like I remember you, the oldest video that is still public anyway, I think it was, you were talking about like what you wanted the channel to be, and you were like, I'm gonna make like videos about comic book games because like nobody else was doing that. And I was watching that video and I was like, you know, I really don't think anybody, like that spot has not been filled, I don't think.
At
like,
the time?
I can't think of anybody now. Like I know there's probably somebody.
There's mad people. Well, yeah, there's mad people that do that now.
Really?
But like at the time, they're really like if there was, I definitely wasn't aware of them, except for maybe a guy named Nightwing. He might have been already doing that. I don't know. But like near as I could tell, there wasn't people doing just like, you know, talking about comic book video games and shit. So like I remember what I like the first thing that I did that made me want to do that. It might have been like making videos on Batman Arkham City or something.
Yeah.
Like doing like I think it might have been like doing like when they made those DLC characters, like when you could play as Batman or like I'm sorry, like Robin or whoever, I don't remember. And like I made videos on those and those got like a couple hundred views and I got super stoked. And I was like, you know what? I love this shit. And I started getting into comic books at that time. So like it started with me watching like videos where like comic book pickup videos, like because I didn't even know people like they made comic books anymore. Like I thought that was like literally like just something that just was in like I don't know like old, like that they maybe stopped in like the 80s or the 90s or something. Because I'd never seen a comic book store. I'd never like they don't sell comic books in 7-Elevens like they did in the 60s or something. So I was like completely unexposed to it. And I started finding these videos through like Recommended or something where people were just showing which comic books they picked up that week. And some of them would review them like on the spot. So they'd be like, oh, this is, I got Superman 96, whatever, it's pretty good. Art's pretty blah, blah, blah. Like talking about the story. And I was like, dude, this shit is tough. And like I wanted to start reading, but like I said, I was really poor at the time. And even just like, I was so scared of being thought of like as a nerd and like that I was literally afraid to ask my mom to take me to the comic book store, like let alone people at school knowing that I read comics. I was afraid that my mom would know I read comics.
Your mom's gonna like go to like drop you off at school and she'll like roll down the window and be like, hey guys, virgin. Yeah.
That's I mean like I don't know, it's super rational fear, but I remember one day like I knew it was comic book day because it was Wednesday and I knew that's when they uploaded all their videos. So I was like, my mom drove me to school and I was like, hey mom, like after school, do you think you could take me to the comic book store? And she went, comic book store? I was like, yeah, I know where one is, like off Gainesville or whatever it was. And she was like, yeah, sure. And my mom always saw it as like, well, at least I know he's not smoking weed or, doing drugs or whatever.
Right. And I mean, it's
like,
reading,
sure. Yeah, so she'd like give me like $20 every week to get comic books or as much as she could. And so I started going to the comic book store and then like it stopped being just making videos about like comic book video games and started being a little bit more about like I wanted to make like a show where I did my like pickups and like copied this one channel. I think it was a comic book look, which I loved their channel. I thought it was super cool. It had like this funny editing style. And then I started making comic book hooks with my friend Jurgen, and I think those videos are private too. But yeah, and then like shortly after, like not even like 3 or 4 months after I started, like or I did that initiative, Injustice like trailer came out.
Yeah, when I think of like you when I first met you, I think of Injustice and like the Arkham games, but mostly Injustice.
Definitely.
I don't even remember. Oh wait, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I don't even remember like where exactly, because I think you met Omega before you met like me or anybody else. Like I don't remember where did you meet everybody?
So the way I found everyone was because like I like everyone else, I subscribed to like every Machinima channel. I think it was like a Realm video of yours, and I think it was you and Chris. Or it might have just been that I watched like whenever I saw those DBZ videos go up on Machinima, I watched it, and so I'd see yours, but I don't think I was even subscribed to you. I just would see those and I'd watch them. And I remember one from you like where like you were taking on like Vegeta as the monkey, and I think anyway I don't. But then I remember a video with you and Chris like playing with each other on one of those DBZ games, and then I subscribed to you guys and then like watched the Derp Circle, and like Chris was just, I felt like he uploaded the most or something like that. So I remember he made this video called, I don't remember how, but I had him on Skype for some reason. I really don't remember how, but I had him on Skype for some reason. And he made this video on Halo Reach or Halo 4 about how like, oh, like if you like basically the wrong way and like the right way, according to him, to like make friends with your favorite YouTubers or like to connect and like whatever, like grow your channel or something. And so without even realizing how obvious this looks, after watching that video, I sent him a message on Skype and was like, yo, I really like that video you made, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, I think it was like, he was like, oh yeah, like, well, like you make YouTube videos or whatever. Like he'd maybe like watch like one of my videos or something. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then like once you guys stopped wanting to do the derp circle or whatever it was, he just needed somebody to do it. So he just messaged me and he was like, hey, I'm at my wit's end. I've got literally no one. Would you do this podcast with me? And he'd like recoil in depression.
and thus the secret podcast was born.
Yeah, like 5 years later.
Hey, I mean, you can't rush art, all right?
You can't, you know. We had to go through many instances before we could get there.
Right? And then one other thing too, kind of in between all of that happening, I remember like I was skimming through your uploads and it was like 2015. I think you made this video where you're like, hey guys, I haven't uploaded in a while. It's because like you started getting into videography. And like you mentioned that you were making videos for the comic book store. And I thought that was pretty fucking clutch. Like, and especially even more so now knowing how like you getting into comic books was like, I mean, almost inadvertent. Like, I guess I just imagined like you being like, oh yeah, ever since I was like 7, I've been reading, like I was born with Spider-Man 161, you know, came rolling out with that or something. But like, and then that ended up like, so I guess I was wondering, is that like when you got into videography was when you were working with them or?
Like to the point of like the comic book thing, like I didn't ever know about comic books, but I always loved like comic book characters. Like I grew up watching, you know, Batman, the animated series, and Batman Beyond, and, you know, Spider-Man animated series, and all those shits. I always loved all of them. I've always loved like superheroes. But like one of my earliest memories too is my dad. Like the first time I ever remember going to the movies was my dad took me to see Spider-Man, and yeah, so that's like one of my earliest memories. So I have always liked superheroes, but it wasn't until I was in 9th grade that I started reading comic books, and it's been like on and off since then, just because the nature of comic books, they're, you know, trash one year and like really really good one year. So the videography thing, I remember like that it didn't really start wanting to be a videographer or anything like that. I really even like to this day, I don't even really like videography that much. It's just like the closest thing I can get to. Like basically, I remember sitting in my room on Xbox in 2010 and I ordered the Social Network on Xbox Live or whatever so I could watch it. And that was the first time I remember watching a movie and thinking like just, I don't even conceptualizing the fact that somebody made it, that it wasn't like, I don't know how to explain it, because I guess some people maybe they just inherently understand that it's a movie, but movies to me were always like so like I just got so into them that I was literally being taken to a different world, and it just felt like I was just watching that world exist, and it wasn't really like, you know, these people telling this story with cameras and lights and blah blah blah. But that was the first time I realized, I was like, oh, like motherfuckers are like making this. What is that like? And then I started going on YouTube and trying to see like behind the scenes stuff, seeing what it like. The first behind the scenes stuff I remember watching was The Dark Knight, and so because that was one of the other movies that really made me like think about filmmaking. Yeah, that Kick-Ass.
Oh, I love Kick-Ass.
The Social Network. Those are like the 3 ones that I'd like probably like I would give credit to like me wanting to be a filmmaker for whatever reason. They're like obviously super disparate, even though 2 of them are superhero movies. Like they're all tonally like super different.
I think they are 3 movies that came out roughly the same time, like same ballpark, like around that time that like you and I were at that age where I guess like we could start to probably begin to process like you said, like, oh shit, people made this, you know, like, and like they have enough dimensions in those movies. It's not like, you know, just some dumb action movie where you're like, all right, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, you got Megan Fox here to be hot, and then you got these guys here to make things explode. Like, you know, you don't, there's
Yeah.
nothing really to like absorb with that. But then with these movies, you like can't help but be like, oh, wait a minute, there's more things going on, you know?
Yeah, it was like, I feel like Kick-Ass taught me like the heart in filmmaking almost. Like The Dark Knight, I don't even know really what that taught me, but and then The Social Network taught me like dialogue, like what you can get from just people talking. Like The Dark Knight, I don't even know. Like it's such like it's like cliche at this point, but also it was such a huge moment in our lives. I feel like people to this day are doing Joker impressions all the time, or like, you know, imitating moments from those movies, you know, like, so it was obviously a huge moment, but so anyway, I started watching like behind the scenes stuff that I could find, and then I started finding Indie Mogul was the first channel I found that like taught you how to make videos, or like videography and like filmmaking and shit. And I just became like completely entranced. I literally watched like every video I could find, and then I found FilmRight and I watched every video I could watch, and just like so like I remember like I don't remember how old I was exactly, maybe like 15 or 16, but wanting like nothing more than a T3i. Like I wanted it so bad, and like I remember my mom spending like all her money on like Black Friday to get me a T3i that year. Damn. And like the day that so like to your point, like, so basically I just started studying it as much as I could, but like still being like, I was still super young and didn't really like get everything, you know, but I knew that I wanted to do that. And so I started writing like scripts, like kind of like, I didn't really understand what's like how to write a script. So it was obviously, you know, super bad. Everything I write is still super bad, but I remember wanting to make my first movie or short film when I was like a month after, like 2 months after I left school in 10th grade to be homeschooled. I had this script. It was called like Garbage Bag or something, and it was about like these dudes who, I don't remember if they just like found this garbage bag on the side of the road or what exactly the issue was. I think they were supposed to pick up like a garbage bag on the side of the road that was going to have all this cocaine in it or something. And when they opened the bag, instead of cocaine, it was this woman's body.
Oh shit.
Like cut up into pieces. And basically like them like not knowing what to do and shit. And then I think they got killed or something. So I wrote this little like 5-10 page script or something. And I asked all my friends if they would help me make it, and they all said yes, and they all came over and we did a script reading, and I thought like I was going to make my first short film. And then like the day came when we were supposed to film it, and literally everyone canceled. And that was the day I was awakened to the harsh reality that I was going to face for the next 10 years, I guess, almost. Love just not being able to make something because I don't have anybody around me that wants to help. And when I realized that nobody was going to help me and nobody's going to let me, like, essentially nobody's going to help me make it, I was like, okay, well, I'll just do what I can. And that's when I started wanting to do videography, because I was like, at least I can get, you know, a huge portion of what I want out of this without having to worry about anybody else helping me. And so that's like probably like a year or two later, I guess, or a year and a half or something, I got my license. And like on that day when I got my license, I drove to the comic book store and I said, I want to make your YouTube videos because they suck. And then
dick on like, the counter.
Yeah. I literally walked in. It was the day I got my license. The first thing I did was drive to the comic book store and say that I wanted to make their YouTube videos and that I could do better. And so I did. And I worked for like basically free. I was supposed to be getting like 50% off all my comic books for like the first, like that was my payment. And so I worked there from January of, I guess, like 2014, I think, to May. Because I remember it was comic book day, free comic book day, which is the first Saturday in May, that I went in there, and I was super broke at the time. And I didn't have I knew exactly what I wanted, and I knew exactly how much it should cost. So I went in there to grab my shit, and I went up to the guy, and he was like, all right, it's going to be $25. And I was like, or 17 or something like that. I was like, no, it should be $12.50. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, my 50% off. And he's like, you get 25% off. And I was like, what are you talking about? I get 50% off. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was arguing with the owner in front of all these people on Free Comic Book Day. Like, Free Comic Book Day is the biggest day of the year for comic book stores. And he was like, I'm going to give you this shit this time, but like, you're not going to embarrass me in front of all these people or whatever. So he gives me my comic books for $12.50. I was like, all right, bet. I walked out, took all my camera shit, and I left.
Yeah.
And I just didn't go back. I was like, fuck you. And so I basically didn't do anything again for like 6 months. Didn't go to the comic book store or anything like that. One day there was a new comic book that I really wanted, so I had to go to the comic book store. And so I went in, and not the owner, but the manager, he was like, hey, like, Matt, where have you been? Like, we want to make YouTube, like, we want to make the videos with you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I want to as well, but I don't work for free anymore. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, I've been doing a lot of video work recently, doing a lot of weddings, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. I had not done anything at all.
But you got that deadpan that we've talked about. Like,
yeah,
you're believable.
And I looked him straight in the eye, and I told him, like, it, as if that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, well, how much do we need to like pay you or whatever? I was like, it's going to be like $150 a week minimum. And he was like, okay, think we can do that? And I was like, what?
I mean, how old were you? You were like...
I was probably 17.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, probably 17. I might have been 18 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, yeah, we'll do that. And so I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
And so that same day I went over to the other comic book store across the street, and I was like, hey, you guys want to make YouTube videos? Because I can do them for like $150 a week or something. And they were like, no, fuck off. Because like, I'm just some kid, 17 or 18 years old. They don't know shit. So I contacted the dude who I used to make videos with for the comic book store, who they had like some disagreement, and he also like left. And I was like, hey, like, let's get a deal with this other comic book store. So then I started working both the comic book stores, making their YouTube videos. And I was getting like $300 a week from working both of their YouTube channels. I only had to make like 2 videos.
Yeah. And when you're like 17, 18, that's pretty damn, I mean, that's not bad money, period. Like, let alone when you're that young and doing what you enjoy doing.
Absolutely no bills, nothing to worry about. So I was just making, I don't know, what is that? Fucking $1,200 a month or something.
Yeah. I mean, God, yeah, being like 18 years old, and like I said, and not even like you're doing, I mean, obviously that's hard work, but like when, when that's what you want to do. Okay.
Like it wasn't, like I had to go shoot for like 2 hours a week, and I edited for like 3.
Jesus. Yeah.
Like I was literally like finessing, as I just, just being honest in hindsight, I finessed, and I did that for like 1.5 years or 2 years or something. Yeah, probably like 2 years. After like not even a year with the second store, they basically like, they weren't listening to me. They would not let me like have my input, despite the fact that I was the only person with an even remotely successful YouTube channel before. They only listened to the older dude. They would only let him, like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, basically
a month before they would eventually cancel it, like they finally let me do what I thought would have worked. But like literally as we're filming the first episode, he gets the text from them saying that they're canceling it. So I had 4 episodes to make like after that, or 3 episodes to make after that one. But regardless, it was getting canceled because it didn't grow. It didn't help them. Whereas like the other store, like to this day, he'll message me because I'm not going back up to Manassas to make these YouTube videos anymore. Not for that money.
Yeah.
Like it's just not worth it to me. As much as I really did love making them. It's just not, I can't do it.
Right.
Not that often. So he texts me or sends me a message on Facebook very frequently. He was like, hey dude, people like ask literally all the time where the YouTube videos are. Like the other place, like they literally, whatever I wanted to do, they would just listen to it. And that channel has like multiple, like many thousand view videos, like not thousand, like tens of thousands of views.
Right.
So like they really did see like something from what I was making, you know. At the end of the day, it's still YouTube, so like there's tons of people watching in Canada, blah, like tons of people who aren't watching in Virginia, so it didn't I'm sure it didn't amount to like obviously 10,000 views that equaled another $500 this week. Like no, but they saw something from it because they still asked me to make them.
Yeah, and I mean, like looking at it from like I don't know, 150 or so. I mean, like for a video, that's really not bad. Like if you think about like how much it would pay or how much it would cost to get like anybody else to do that shit, you know?
Yeah,
I feel like it would be
maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like especially considering you had the equipment, like you had this nice ass, you know, T3i and all this other stuff, you know, because that stuff's not cheap.
Yeah,
but there is something about your first like DSLR, like your first like nice ass camera. Like I remember I got my T2i and I fucking wasted it. Like I was using it for like vlogs and stupid shit back on my old YouTube channel, but like there is something about that. And like I was watching this was when I started learning about frame rates. And I was like, why does this look so fucking badass? And I realized it was, you know, the 24 FPS and how like cinematic that looked. And like I feel like nowadays everything's in 60 FPS and like I get really like I love and hate it. Like depends on what I'm watching. So like sometimes I'll watch, like if I'm watching like a gameplay video, I want that shit in as high.
Yeah.
But like every now and like it's so popularized for everything to be 60 FPS now, like 1080 60 FPS at least, you know. But every now and then, like sometimes Marquise Brownlee, he will upload a video in like 24 FPS, and I'm just like, God damn! Like I miss when this was like the wave there for a little bit, you know.
Yeah, the other thing too is like people are being like exposed to like high frame rate bullshit. Like when you buy a TV now, they come standard like at like to show you 60 frames per second. So like you'll be watching TV and it'll be a show that's filmed in 24 frames per second, but they're showing it to you at 60 frames per second. Obviously there's not 60 frames per second in that show. So did you ever see The Hobbit in the high frame rate?
I've actually not. No.
Good. That was like legit. Go watch like a clip from The Hobbit at 48 frames per second one day. It's fucking terrible. Like it doesn't look right. It looks like it's in high speed. Like it looks like they're literally walking faster than they are. You know what I mean? It doesn't look right. And like that's not being like a movie purist or like, you know, like Martin Scorsese or something like that. Like it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look the way it doesn't even look like real life. It looks sped up.
Yeah.
So I hate, and like people don't even realize that. Every time I go to a friend's house and I'm watching TV with them, it's like you don't see that.
I know.
You don't see that it's like it's in fast motion.
I've had the discussion with my fiance because we got like a nicer, like newer TV downstairs, and it's of course like 60 FPS, and then we got this one upstairs that's like 30 at the most, I'm sure.
Right.
And like so sometimes I will watch TV downstairs and I'm like, oh man, you know, I really like the 60 FPS. It looks more like realistic in a way. And I get that. But then every now and then, like I'll come upstairs and she'll be watching the TV upstairs and she'll be watching some show on Netflix, like in bed. And I just like peek my head over and I see it at like 30 or 24 frames per second. And I'm like, why does, you know, like I think when 60 FPS first started becoming such a wave, like I was all into it, but every now and then I watch older stuff now and I'm like, damn, this is like, it looks more cinematic for sure. Whether or not it's like better, like cinematic for sure. 24 FPS.
Definitely more cinematic and better.
And better. So you've kind of like highlighted it a little bit and like touched on it, but like, so Secret Podcast, like y'all bitches are how many episodes deep?
166.
Jesus fuckballs. Like, so like with that, I mean, like you know, even throughout my hiatus where I wasn't really online, I would like sometimes lurk and like watch a couple episodes here and there or something just to kind of like, you know, see what everybody's up to, see what's going on and all that stuff. But like, so just kind of
Yeah.
watching everything, man, it's been like, you guys have got such a like good thing going, and it's really awesome. But like, what are some of the like highlights? Because I know there was like a period of time where you guys were like seeing each other in real life quite a bit and like all that. Like, what are some of like the best memories that you've got of doing that podcast, or worst? I don't know. Like, what's standing out in your head? You know?
I think, I mean, every time we see each other, it's super great. Like the first time we met, it was February of 2016. It's funny because like the last like 5 days or something, I've been getting memories on my Snapchat pop up from the first, like when we first met, and like it was just so surreal because we'd been friends for so long. Like, I don't even know how many years we'd been friends at that point, but you know, we talked all the time. You know, like I was being homeschooled at this point, so me and Chris, we'd literally be on Discord all day, every day with each other. Like we became like super, super close. And then Xavier, you know, he was like in school and working, so he couldn't be on as much. But even like anytime he was home, he was on. So, you know, we all like the three of us were just such good friends. You know, they were like almost to a degree my only friends, because like my real friends in real life or whatever, they started going off to college or, you know, this, that, or the other. So like, you know, I was sort of being left like behind in a way. And like, I don't know, we just became really, really close. So every time we got to see each other after we started the podcast, because the first time we met was like 4 or 5 months after we started the podcast. And, you know, like we made like music videos, and like every time we see each other, we always, like, we're just always super productive. So I've always thought that one day, like, you know, if we all like get to live, not even like in the same house with each other, because I think we'd probably hate it, but like living in the same area one day, I think we'll, like, it'd be hard for us not to succeed, because we just don't let each other fail. Yeah. So, but like just starting the podcast was really good, because it was like super, it's always been this way for me, but it was like therapy for me almost. Like I would talk about, because I'd just gone through like a really bad breakup right when we started the show, like literally a month before. And I would talk about that like pretty openly on the podcast, and they would help me with that. And like, it's same with Xavier, like, not that he went through a breakup, but he just had no confidence, like, at all. And he, you know, we'd have to like, you know, bolster him up. And like, just, I don't know, like, just like the friendship that's come from it overarching is obviously the best thing, but, and like keeping us together, like we can't, like, you know what I mean? Like we can't escape each other at this point. Like this podcast isn't going anywhere. It's like a part of our lives. Right. And, but my like favorite 2 times like that we've been together, I think we've seen each other like 4 or 5 times, was Chicago, because that was the first time it wasn't the first time I'd ever met somebody that's seen my channel or like that knew me, but it was like we did our meetup. So like all 4 of us were in Chicago visiting Johnny, and then we decided, hey, we'll do a meetup at the Bean if anybody in Chicago wants to meet us. And we literally thought not a soul was going to come. Right. We had like, we have like less than 2,000 subscribers. Like nobody knows who we are. It's literally the name of the show. And so but either way, we were like, hey, if anybody wants to come out, we're going to be there anyway. You know, come through. And so I remember posting on Instagram as we're walking up to the Bean, just like, oh, we're at the Bean if anybody's around, blah, blah, blah. And as I'm like pressing post, this kid, Ivan, rolls up on us and he's like, yo. And we were like, what the fuck? Like, it's Ivan, because he'd been a Patreon of ours, like in our Patreon calls for like more than a year or something. So that was crazy. And then like we were there for probably like 2.5 hours or something, and just more and more guys were coming. It was like we met like 6 fans of the show that day, and that was insane. Like we got a picture with them, with everyone, and like anybody who wanted pictures with just us or whatever, like they didn't want like a huge group photo. Like it was just it was so surreal seeing because like they weren't all like they didn't just live like 5 minutes away. Like these kids had to take like a 2-hour train. Like they, you know, like they really went out of their way to meet us. Like nothing else was on their mind that day than meeting us, and to see how much like our show meant to them was insane. You know, like it really was. And then this last time when we saw each other at TwitchCon, it was the second time we'd been to California, but the first time we'd been to San Diego. I met our friend Armored Penguin, who comes on the show. Joey comes on pretty often, and he like him and I like made a pact where I was like, all right, we're moving out here. He already lived there, but I was like, I'm gonna move out here a year from now, because just the energy for me, I was like, this is like where I need to be. Like I'll succeed out here, you know? So like the therapy that I get from the podcast, like the camaraderie, and I just feel like we're doing something right.
Yeah. No, you guys do have like a fucking cult following, like in a, you know, good way, obviously. Like, I mean, your guys, like, you guys seem to have so many like regulars and stuff like that. Like people, like you said, you know, like been on your Patreon call for like a whole year and like spent their whole fucking day just to go see you guys. Like that is really great. And I feel like not a lot of shows do like the whole just kind of, you know, bunch of guys discussing, because I forget what it was that I was listening to or watching, but ironically enough, I think it was a podcast, but they had mentioned they were like nowadays, like you get a couple of like millennial white dudes together, and the first thing, like they have any conversation and they're like, this should be a fucking podcast. You know? Yeah. Like I know me and my buddies do it all the time, but like, you know, you guys do that so well, because like I don't listen to a lot of them that do stuff like that. Like if they're, but you guys, because you guys mix it well, because a lot of times they'll literally just be like guys shooting the shit, but you guys do have like topics for the structure of it and to keep it like, I guess, engaging, but like it also is like shooting the shit and stuff. So like I think that's definitely it. And like just from like you know, a viewer standpoint, you know, from the outside looking in, like can confirm the main thing you guys do right too, I think, is like the camaraderie. Like how I was saying earlier, like you can just tell watching it, like you guys are homeboys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome. And then as far as the like therapy aspect of it goes, like I know you've mentioned it once or twice at least, like like when I've been on, and I think a couple other times, just kind of talking about like how you really enjoy having kind of like something to do like this. I mean, so, you know, nowadays, like you seem to have your shit like pretty well to get, like, as far as you seem to have had like a glow up in the sense of like, you know, you seem way more confident nowadays and all that stuff. You know, you seem like all this stuff. I feel like, you know, kind of from the outside looking in, it's been a great thing for you kind of doing all that. But like, so, I mean, do you still get like the same like therapy out of it? Or, I mean, is it I mean, like obviously to a certain extent, you know, but I mean, is it just different or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny because like a year ago, like the same time, like in August of 2019, like me and that same girl broke up again. And like at some point, like for whatever reason, like when that happened, I didn't feel like putting all my friends and everyone really like through the same shit that they'd all had to go through with me before. Because I mean, I literally talk, like if I wasn't talking, it didn't matter if it was the podcast or not. Like I talked about her every day for almost a year until like her and I had gotten back together. And I have to imagine for all my friends and everyone that it was super taxing. And so like when we broke up again, I sort of like locked it away. And like with that, I really locked away like all of it, like not just that, but like I just stopped talking about, you know, like any of my feelings really. And it wasn't until like probably like the 20 like June of 2019 that I finally was like, I was maybe not even then, like I don't know, it might have been August, that I was like, oh, like I'm like like really really depressed, and like it didn't even just have to do with like, you know, like that girl or anything like that, but just I just was like working the job that I work, you know. I think we've had this conversation before, is like, you know, I took this job because like for a couple different reasons. One, to like prove a point to that girl, because she had expressed to me like almost basically just called me a failure, and to my family too, because they've said like similar things, you know, like not my mom and my dad, but like my extended family, like they've been like, oh, like how's college, you know, are you blah blah blah, like are you, where's your like what kind of job do you have, even though they knew I was doing videography and stuff like that. Like they've hired me to do things. So like I did it to prove a point, because like I worked at the job I have for like 3 months, and then I got promoted twice within those 3 months to the position I have now. And within 8 months of working at that position, I got offered my own gym to be the general manager at a different gym. So like I just did it to prove a point, but because I was doing it to prove a point to other people, like I've been super super depressed and like closed off, because it's not what I wanted to do. I've always my motto in life was always just to do what I wanted to do. You know, even if I failed, it was like at least it was what I wanted to do. So like I sort of put myself in a shitty position now, because you know, like I'm like in a way stuck doing this for a while. But that's like also a huge reason why I'm so excited to move to LA and do the like filmmaking stuff, because like my friend Joey, he's out there right now doing a gig, like doing like working on a set, making like a commercial or whatever. And like that, like the most minuscule job on a film set would be so much more rewarding to me than working at a gym selling somebody a gym membership. Like I don't give a fuck. Like obviously I am not the poster boy for the gym. Like it's not my thing. So like I can't wait. And seeing how successful he's been like over like the last like few months since we agreed that that's what we were going to do, it's been super super like motivating to me, because it's like, you know, when we first agreed to do it, I was like, shit, that's kind of scary. You know, like everyone always says like, oh, like you're really gonna go do, like you're gonna go out to fucking LA, like all right, you're gonna fail, blah blah blah. And so like in a way, like it at least gets in the back of your head. You're like, the chances of you succeeding or whatever are slim. But you know, even though he's only doing PA jobs out there, like I said, just the most minuscule job on a film set would be more rewarding to me. And that's at the end of the day what I want to be able to look back on in life when I'm, you know, about to croak and be like, you know what, this shit's like that was worth it.
No,
so
I wholeheartedly like 2000% agree with you on something like that, because like, you know, this is something that I've had to learn pretty recently. Because, you know, when I left YouTube to go do a like quote unquote real job, it was kind of you know, due to external pressures. You know, I was kind of like, well, I'm at that age, like I feel like I have to get a real job. And you know, obviously like my passion was not installing cable, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like I was like, this is what I got to do to be an adult and all that stuff. But then, you know, as I've grown up a little bit, I completely realized, you know, no, this, you know, like you said, it is about doing what makes you happy. And you know, I was making pretty solid money when I finally left, and now I have just an absolute like definition of day job. Like it's very consistent hours and schedule, but it enables me much more free time to do what I actually want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, but I totally think that that's something that people have got to learn, and it's different for everybody. Like I know some people that are truly workaholics, and like you know, you could give them any job and like their passion is going to be like performing well at that job, but that just ain't me.
And the thing is, I am like that. That's why I'm in this position.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I just got the original job working there, like at the front desk, because I just wasn't making enough doing video work, and I was going to move into a place, you know, by myself because my roommate was leaving. So I just didn't really have a choice. But then, like, anytime they asked for any kind of help with schedule, I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. Then they were like, oh, like, how about doing sales? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I was going to make $2 more an hour and, be doing like the same hours. So I was like, yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't do that.
Right.
And then I was good at it. But then he, like, even my manager, he was like, oh, would you want to do the assistant manager job, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. And he was like, yeah, I didn't think you were right for it anyway. And him saying that. And then, like, I was just like, everything. I was like, fuck that. I'm going to and so then I started working like 11-hour, 12-hour days working at this job. And just shit like that. Like, or I was like, no, you're not going to tell me I'm not fucking good. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. I was like, I'll be good at whatever I put in front of myself.
I think you and I have very similar motivations. If somebody did that to me, I would instantly be like, oh, you know what? Fuck you. Like, I can do this shit, Like,
yeah.
I've always been really bad. Like, I worry so much about the opinion of what, like, people think of me. But what I worry about is people that should not fucking matter. Like,
yeah,
some random dude that I walk past the street. Like, if he, like, has a weird look or something like that, like, I will think about that the whole rest of the day. I'll be like, that dude, that fucking crackhead at the gas station, like, was looking at me funny or whatever. Like, I'm some weirdo or whatever. But then, like, people very close, like, I'm almost like, I don't give a fuck. Not like I don't give a fuck, but like, I definitely, like, worry way less. And I mean, I guess it could be because, they're close. Like, I don't really, but still, I definitely agree. Like, sometimes I will go out of my way to, like, prove myself to certain people, but yeah, I could see you being in sales though, because, like, just, like you said, kind of like how you did with the comic books store, you just, like, kind of come in and like, you seem to have that ability to exude that confidence when you need to, like, for survival or whatever.
Yeah, I think so.
But
yeah.
And I've talked to one of my buddies. He's, like, super into, like, he does sales for a paint company basically. And he kind of had, like, a similar rise up. Like, he started just working in their store, and then he, like, became, like, an assistant manager, and now he manages a store. And he's, like, looking at now being, like, one of the business to business sales reps, and basically being, like, working with, like, big contracting companies to make sure they, like, exclusively use their stuff. But anyway, like. Yeah. He's one of those people that, like specifically as a workaholic for sales, like, loves watching, like, the numbers come up. Like, is that you at all, or like?
No, I mean, like, I like knowing that I, like, I'm succeeding in it, but I don't really, like, for example, like, January was, like, a super bad month for us at the gym this year. Like, obviously January is supposed to be, like, the biggest month of the year for a gym. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm very good at, like, I get more mad at things that, like, are super minor and dumb than I do, like, when something big is happening. Like, if we're failing at the gym, like, it could be my job, Yeah. And, like, I'm much more calm and, like, can take that shit than when I don't know, like, something stupid happens and it's really not that big of a deal. Like you said, like, somebody looking at me the wrong way. Like, I've almost gotten in, like, mad bar fights recently because of shit like that. Whereas, like, somebody, like, something at work, like, or, like, if I find out something bad, in life, like, is happening, like, with, like, the breakup, for example, like, I took it really well, like, in terms of, like, I was, like, very calm. I didn't get upset and scream at her or something like that or whatever, like, the way, like, cry. But, other, like, stupid minor shit I get way more upset at, visibly at least. Okay.
I gotcha.
I don't know why that is. But yeah, I don't really care about the numbers beyond, like, knowing if I'm getting my bonus.
Yeah. That's about the healthiest way you can look at sales jobs, because they can very easily be, like, very consuming. And
yeah, I mean, I get stressed on, like, a weekend because, like, basically I work Friday to Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And then I have off Wednesday, Thursday. So I'm, like, the only manager on the weekend. And so, like, if the week was bad and they're relying on me to get the numbers up over the weekend sucks at the gym anyway. So if I have to pull the numbers up over the weekends, like, that's not a good look, because, like, I'm gonna then it's stressful.
Yeah.
because I have like, I won't just have my manager over my back. I'll have the area manager. Sometimes I'll have the owner, like literally texting me like, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? Then it's much more stressful. But for the most part, yeah, I'm pretty good at keeping it, I don't know, dialed back.
Yeah. I don't think I can ever go back. Like I haven't had a lot of sales experience, so it could have just been, the company I was working at being like exceptionally toxic, which wouldn't surprise me. But I would just constantly be thinking like when I'm not working, I'm just like, what am I gonna do to get and even in roles where like I consistently could meet, the quota or whatever, it would be
Yeah.
like the first of the month and I'd be like, how the fuck am I going to meet this quota? Like, you know what I mean? I'd be like,
Yeah.
I would be worried until that quota was met. Like, even if I was pretty damn confident, like there's no reason I shouldn't meet it. I'm like, I'm flipping until it's done. But
Yeah, I sort of let my manager worry about that. I just do my job. It's like if somebody comes in, I'll sell them.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's it.
Be like that.
I just don't like stressing.
Yeah. I feel that.
I feel like growing up like super poor helped me with that because like I knew about my mom's bills and like where we were at like financially since I don't know, like the 4th grade or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like super young, knowing like where, like I remember like we'd already lost our home, and then my mom lost her home in the financial crisis of like 2007, 2008 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then we had to find a new apartment. And I remember like a year after that or 2 years after that or something, coming home one day and like finding the eviction notice on our door because my mom wasn't home from work. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. It's just like, so I don't know. I feel like I was built to deal with stress.
Yeah.
Because of that. Yeah.
I could definitely see that, kind of conditioning you to, like you said, be built for that. It's kind of like, bitch, can't nothing stress me out. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, like, you don't want a gym membership? Fuck you. Whatever, dude.
Yeah. And I do be like that sometimes. Like, I'm not going to chase after you. Or like, there's a lot of times where somebody comes in, even the other day, like this lady came in on Monday. She came in, she was like, "Hi, I want to get a gym membership." I was like, "All right, great. Do you know which gym membership you want to get?" She was like, "I want to get the $12.99 one." And I basically explained to her, I was like, if you start with the more expensive gym membership, it's actually going to save you money. And she just could not get that. She simply couldn't get it because the $12.99 membership, it costs $30 to start. But if you start with the membership that is $30, I could give her the first 2 months for free, and she could change the membership before the end of those 2 months. Whereas if she started with the one that's $12.99, she'd pay $30 and then $12.99 2 days later, and then $12.99 next month, and then $12.99 the next month. So she would spend an additional like $39 or something in her first 2 months. And she literally couldn't get it. And that kind of shit frustrates me.
Yeah.
Like, I won't lie. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't know how to make this any more succinct and salient for you to understand. It's like, if you do this one, you just save money, period. Like, just take that. Just understand that. It's that simple.
Like, the first sales job that I did was like just residential stuff, dealing with like regular, Joe Schmoes, like literally in their house. Like it was a glorified door-to-door salesman. Basically I was supposed to like go out when people were getting their cable and internet installed. And I was supposed to go there and try to be basically like, hey, you're getting cable and internet. Why don't you also get cell phones with us? You know what I mean? But like, I definitely coming there unsolicited. You know what I mean?
Right.
But like technically, like I had sort of a purpose. Like also the purpose was to, educate the customer on all their new shit that they're getting and all that stuff. But definitely to upsell and everything. But anyway, like I dealt with, some just real idiots where like you're trying to explain stuff and they wouldn't get it. And then I ended up moving to a role where I did like business sales, and I thought this is going to be so much better. Like I'm dealing with some like smart people, like, and I'm like, all I'm going to have to do is present them the facts of why my product is better than what they've got. And like, it's done. We're done. The deal is no. I learned very quickly that like basically the people that I was just talking to the same people, except I was talking to them in their house. Now I'm talking to them like in their office at work. Like everybody's a fucking idiot, myself included. But like,
but not that dumb.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
I can't wait to never have to work in a thing like in customer service, or because like I don't just do sales now that like I'm the assistant manager. Like I have to do like a huge amount of customer service, like dealing with people coming in trying to cancel their membership, trying to get like refunds, this like any number of things. And it's like that's the most stressful thing, is like when people come in and I'm literally just following the rules. It's like, okay, if you came in to cancel, today's your 30-day notice. And they're like, but if I'm canceling today, what's my 30-day notice? And it's like,
today.
Today. Yeah, if you come in to cancel, that's your 30-day notice. So any payments due within the following 30 days would still be due. And they're like, but I'm canceling today. And I'm like, okay, so if you cancel today, that's your 30-day notice. So and I literally just repeat it over and over again until they get it, because I'm not, and I just get more and more frustrated as it happens. And I've gotten more and more frustrated as I've worked here longer. Yeah. Like when I first started, I was much better at like dealing with people calmly and not getting frustrated at their complete and utter retardation. But these days I've been getting like pretty bad at not snapping at people, but like becoming super condescending towards them when they don't get it or they don't like it. You know, like it's just sort of like it is what it is, you know?
Yeah, no, you definitely, like when you start out with those jobs, you're always, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm going to do so good and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, you're also generally a lot more passionate about the product or whatever. And then you start to get a little bit more jaded generally anyway. And that can definitely go towards that.
Sometimes I just wish I'd get fired.
You're just
like genuinely, like if I got fired, I think it would just push me to go just do what I want to do now instead.
So what would it take? I mean, for you to just up and be like, all right, I am moving to LA. I mean, would it just basically be?
I mean, I'm just saving money right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So that like I have like some kind of safety net, in case like for whatever reason I can't find any jobs or something down there or over there, or you know, just so I can move there and maybe not work for a month.
Yeah.
No. You know, I don't know how long it's going to find a job over there. Like, hopefully I should be able to, you know, I feel like I've never had a problem finding a job. Like, to be fair, like this is my first job, but the other time I had a job for like a day, and I literally like I applied. It was the only job I applied to. I got a call back literally the same day, and I went in for an interview that day, and I started the next day.
Damn.
And then I quit the following day. And
efficient.
And then with this job, it was the only place I applied to. Granted, my friend had worked there before, so they like recommended me or whatever. I applied, got it, and then, you know, whatever. But, you know, I feel like after going out there, by the time I go out there, I'm gonna have like 2 years experience as a manager in a gym. So, and Gold's Gym started in LA. So in my head, I'm like, you know, I could probably find another gym out there, even if I don't want to be a manager again. Like I'd rather just, you know, do sales or whatever or something, because even the salespeople are going to make more money out there, you know?
Yeah.
The minimum wage is higher.
Yeah. Like if you're, especially if like you're looking at following like your dream, you could easily find like a income maker, like pretty easily. Like I tell people a lot, I'm like, you know, especially if you are tech savvy and like have some customer service experience, like there are a shit ton of like call centers that are constantly hiring and shit. I mean, obviously not glamorous work. Like it's not, but like, I mean, it's a steady job. You know what I mean? Like it's income and like all that, or working retail.
I'd also like to try some new jobs. Like I've always kind of wondered what it's like to wait tables. Like I don't want to wait tables or something like that, but like I'd like to know what it is like. You know, I'd like to work at like be a waiter for like a month or two or something. Like I'd like to, you know, try some of the other jobs that are in movies a lot, you know, that you see, but like you don't ever really get to know, you know, like exactly what that's like. I would like to be a waiter for like a month or two, or I'd like to, you know, work in like a clothing store or something like that, or I don't know, any number of things I think would be fun to try out while I'm, going out there and I'm not really trying to like further my career in business management or something. Like, cause like being like dead ass serious, my friend, Joey, he's literally got like 4 gigs lined up doing PA work, and they don't not pay.
Yeah.
Like it's actually like super surprising to me, cause the way that people make it out to be, I feel like, is like you go out there, even if you're a PA, like I think he worked like, I don't want to put his business out there, but he worked like a couple days and he got like a good, like to me, what would be a good amount of money. Like where if he did that 4 times a month, he would definitely be more than able to live on his own in LA. In a decent place, like not like down fucking,
right,
East LA getting shot when he walks out. Like I'm talking like he's making like not bad money doing the lowest totem pole job on a film set.
Yeah. And there is something. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's just like, it just be like that. So like, I was like, him doing it and being like the first, I don't know, like the first fucking Marine on the front line, like is giving me extreme confidence that when I do get out there is like, I could go out there with like just enough money to get out there. I feel like I could get a job in a week or something and I'd be fine, because a couple weeks later, I'd probably be working on my first film set,
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for you, because like there is something very liberating about like what you said, not really having to worry about advancing your career. You're just kind of like, I'm here and I'm gonna do this job, and it is really cool doing jobs for things that like that you see a lot, and it definitely like puts it into perspective. As much as I would love to know like certain, I guess, like faux pas or something like that, for like, because sometimes I know a lot of waiters and people that work in restaurants. Like my sister, for example, she's been a waitress most of her like adult life, and she's always telling me these like insider things that like people that work in restaurants, either like, oh my God, they love when you do this, or they hate when you fucking do this. And it's like, oh, I had no fucking idea that I've pissed off every waiter that I've ever had by, like doing this.
Yeah.
Like I would love to know that type of stuff, but I would be a fucking
like to that
waiter.
point, like when I my ex, my like most recent ex, like she was like a waitress, like primarily, and like I didn't like we would go to restaurants, and like after we'd finish eating, she'd start like stacking up all, like she'd start bussing the table basically, and I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, I'm like helping her out, and I was like, what are you doing that for? And she was like, it's just. And I've started doing that. So like now every time I go to a restaurant, like I put everything on the plate, or if like my friends are, I put them all on the plate, and, make sure everything's there. And, it's just being, I don't know. It's just, I never would have known that before her, and I wouldn't, unless I started working in something like that myself. But now I'm really thankful that I do know that now, because, just helping that person out a little bit.
Yeah.
In a job that kind of fucking blows.
And like, one job that I am really grateful for, and not even gonna lie, I low key miss. At least once a month, I think about the job. Sometimes I'm ultimately really glad I'm not doing it now, because like I was working like 55 to 60 hours a week, and like also if I continued doing this line of work, like my fucking knees and backs would be like shit by the time I'm like 25. But like when I did like cable installation, I learned kind of like that perspective of not like, I mean, obviously specifically cable, but just in general, like working in somebody's house. Like there were so many things that would fucking piss me off. Like for one, and everybody out there listening, take fucking notes. So if you ever got homeboy coming to your house to work on your damn internet, or even like your fucking HVAC or something, you got to, come in to fix your fridge. I don't know. Like, what will piss off any dude coming to work at your house is like, if he's like pulling his truck around to your driveway and he like looks and your bitch ass is standing there like at your front door, like through your little glass screen door, and you're just like staring at his ass. Like there would be so many times like we'd be on the phone with like other coworkers, and I'd be like, this fucking old ass piece of shit is standing at his door, like waiting for me to come to his door. And I'm like, I'm just gonna fucking sit in the truck and like eat my lunch. Like I'm not coming to his door until he or like just helicoptering over. And like obviously like I feel like you should know that's annoying, but like I never realized how annoying And so now I'm almost probably like too hands off when I got people in my house working on shit. I'm like,
Right.
I'm practically like, all right, dude, so here's like my keys. I'm gonna go, you know, like,
Yeah.
this is your house for a little while. Just, you know, you holler if you need anything. But no, I think that is really cool. Like not having to worry about advancing your career and just being like, I'm gonna go do some shit. And then like, yeah, you know, you've got your like goals as your actual, like your main thing that you're worrying about advancing, because it never feels as stressful. Like if you're worried about like getting this promotion for a job that you don't even really give a shit about, like that's going to be
Yeah.
way more taxing than like, oh, I'm wanting to get my first gig doing this on a film set, or, you know, my first film set gig period. Like that, the reward is going to be way higher. And also like, I feel like the motivation will be way higher, you know?
Yeah. And I guess like I really like, you know, that one lyric from Childish Gambino where he's like even when I was broke, like I was still happy or something like that. Like
I think so.
Like off of I don't remember what song it is, but like something like that. And I was like, you know what? Like that's always been true for me. Like this is the most depressed and sad and like whatever like I've ever been, and it's also the most rich I've ever been. Like I made like 4, maybe 5 times the amount of money I made the year before this year working like my job. But like, you know, all the things I can buy and like all the shit, it's all like, it doesn't help, you know? It's like I am the most depressed because I don't get to make anything. I don't get to do anything. Like I'm exhausted from work I hate coming home, and I don't feel like making anything, which is like, since I was 13, the only thing that really ever like brought me any joy or happiness, you know? Like, so it's like super depressing that I, you know, and sort of like, what's the word? Like disappointing in myself that I let other people affect my decision.
Yeah.
Or like how I wanted to live my life for a time. So but the other thing is I'm super thankful that I did go through this, so that when I get out there, I won't be complacent, and I know what I'd be going back to if I don't push hard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like, I get what you mean about the disappointment, but like, man, I mean, you just got to do it. Everybody, I think, has got to like make that mistake or find out for themselves, because some people like, I mean, they don't really have like a passion or whatever, and that's cool, you know what I mean? Or maybe,
yeah,
and or, you know, slaving away at work doesn't bother them. But like, I think, you know, like you said, I mean, you said it perfectly. Like this way, now you know, like you're how to not get complacent or whatever, like how to avoid the burnout. Like I think that is, you got to do it. You know, it's kind of, and also like, I think sometimes I'm like, man, God, I'm already 23, blah, blah, blah. But then you hear so many stories about people, especially in the film industry. So like very relevant to you, where they're like, they talk about not even getting their like, I don't even want to say their big break. They didn't even really get their start until they were like 30. And it's not because like, oh, I was pining away at it since I was 16. And then finally it was mostly for shit, kind of like what you're talking about. Like, you know, oh, I was doing this and then I accidentally decided I was into acting and, or whatever, or, you know, obviously yours not so accidental, but
sure. Like it's funny because you say that, because the statistically, like the average age of a first-time filmmaker is like 33.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in terms of like the first time they make a feature film, a lot of them like they do be working and like doing like what like I'm going to be doing, you know, like, and what me and Joey are going to be doing, like out there, like, you know, working on film sets, making all these connections, because like there's 2 reasons, like there's basically 2 different ways or something that you can get into like doing it. Like you can just like try to do it wherever you're at or whatever. And like that's certainly like it didn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. I cannot find, to save my life, I cannot find somebody that wants to do shit, you know, and or is even willing to like help me in some way. Like that I've never had anybody be willing to literally like try to act for, you know what I mean? Like nothing like that. So like the other option is to go to film school, and like you can make connections that way. But like I'm not going to go to film school and pay $80,000 for a year of film school to, you know what I'm saying? Like that just doesn't make any sense. like you can learn so much more. And like, if I'm going to spend that kind of money, I could spend that money eventually on like a first movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so instead, like doing what Joey's out there, he's making these connections. He's on these sets, and the more people he talks to, and Joey's a super likable guy. And I feel like for the most part, hopefully I am. And especially in that sort of light, like where I'm at, where I, want to be. And like, to be like I have made like two things where like I had like actors, and those 2 days in my life, I never felt more in place. You know what I mean? Like on some spiritual shit where I was like, this is like, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, it was like, I finally got like I don't know, like the confirmation when I was like directing, really, like where I had written a script, I had like 2 people acting, and I had cameras and lights and, microphone set up. And like, it was like I was on my own little film set, and like, I never felt more like I was supposed to do something than those 2 days.
Hey guys, how's it hanging, everybody? This is StormPow, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of StormPod. Do appreciate your guys' continuous support. Please be sure to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you are currently enjoying this podcast on if you're not already. That way you can be notified of new episodes. Also, be sure to check out twitch.tv/thestormpow, where we do these live every week. And also be sure to check out streamlabs.com/thestormpow/merch. Get yourself a hoodie, coffee mug, whatever the heck else you want. But anyway, guys, I do want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you have a nice day, and goodbye. All the music used in this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod. Be sure to check out his royalty-free music at incompetech.com.